はいどうも、こんにちは、tomekkuです。今回なんですけども、あなたがイマージョンラーニングで失敗する理由について話したいと思います。So, immersion is overrated. Yep, I said it. And it's because if you don't understand this one thing, you can go through hours of anime, YouTube videos, podcasts, and you will still feel stuck at square one. So in this video, I'm breaking down the truth about immersion and comprehensible input that nobody really speaks about. その前にな、ほんまに日本語学びたいんやったら、ぜひ概要欄のリンクをチェックしてな。俺が本気であなたをペラペラさせようとする日本語 IQ っていうコースやねん。ほんなら早速始めていこうか。So the biggest misconception about learning Japanese through immersion is that you can fully achieve the highest level of Japanese just by immersion. And while it technically is possible because there was this school in Thailand that did it, it taught its students perfect Thai, perfect Japanese, and all the different languages. And they got fluent and they ended up speaking with perfect pronunciation fully naturally. Just by listening, just by receiving comprehensible input. But there was a couple factors that made it possible that aren't present when you're just immersing at home. So there was the quality of the comprehensible input that they actually received. It was carefully designed to fit the IRL classes, and this is the second factor, it was IRL, and it's proven by studies that somebody speaking to you IRL, even if they're saying the exact same thing that you would listen and watch as a comprehensible input video, the IRL version will still result in you acquiring way more language. And the last factor is motivation, right? If you pay a couple $1,000s for classes, you will learn Japanese. So recently I spoke with my client, who's a member of my Japanese IQ community, first in the description, and I was coaching him through the most optimal way for him to learn Japanese based on his specific personal situation. He's very busy, he's a businessman and a father on top of that, taking care of his whole family. So my advice to him wasn't just go and immerse, bro, because it takes hours every single day. But him not immersing that much doesn't mean that he won't receive comprehensible input. This is the misunderstanding in this language learning community, that you should just immerse, but we forget that immersion isn't always comprehensible input. You can achieve comprehensible input by many means. Even one sentence said to you which you understand, which you comprehend, is comprehensible input and you will acquire language. So it doesn't need to be watching stuff on YouTube. So the most optimal study method for him as well is still comprehensible input. But it's a little bit different. So in his scenario, we couldn't rely on the fact that some of the stuff that he will immerse in will end up being comprehensible input and he will learn it. We had to make the input comprehensible ourselves. And this is why learning about grammar and doing flashcards and so on isn't fully terrible. Because it's tools. Learning grammar structures by reading Takim's Guide to Learning Japanese, for example, or by doing a couple flashcards every single day, this is what makes input comprehensible. But here's what most people get wrong. They go heavily on that method. They drill the grammar and they only focus on how to get the most flashcards possible, and they forget that 90% of the study time should still be immersion. Because otherwise these building blocks, these bridges of grammar and vocab that make input comprehensible will not have the input to make comprehensible, if you know what I mean. If there is no input, it won't be comprehensible. So I told my client to just go through the basics, just read through Takim's Guide to Learning Japanese, make sure he understands it, he comprehends it, and move on. And so you should learn the vocab and the grammar to the point where you understand it, but not to the point where you can accurately output it, to not have it really heavy in your mind. So when you eventually go and start immersing, you do not want to translate everything in your head, look out for the vocab or for the grammar that you've learned before. You want it to kind of flow through you. Because real language acquisition still happens when we subconsciously understand language. We make it comprehensible by translating it in our head, but then after we have translated it, when we understand it and watch it in a different context, that is when real language acquisition happens, because we understand it subconsciously. So do not get me wrong. 90% of your study should still be immersion, should still be comprehensible input. And one more thing, if you just rely on listening and you only listen to Japanese, what happens is that your brain thinks of Japanese as a language that is just there to be understood. It doesn't think that it's a language that we have to speak. We're not in a scenario where we have to speak Japanese, right? You're not in Japan. You're just here comfortable watching anime, right? I have to understand what's happening on the screen, so your brain focuses on understanding. But if you don't actively practice outputting, you will not be able to output. Not because immersion has failed you, but because you've only associated Japanese with understanding. So yes, do not output early on when you barely understand anything. Go and implement it 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 months in, after you've already have a very strong image of how the language is, you understand like 80% of Japanese, then is the time that you take what you're watching, try to summarize it, speak about it to your Japanese friends, or just speak to Japanese friends, and so you tell your brain that Japanese, alright, we also have to speak that language, not just understand it. If what I spoke about in this video made sense to you, you're serious about learning Japanese and want to learn more about this method and how to use it to learn Japanese faster, go and join my Japanese IQ program, first link in the description. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you want, see ya!